Hello and welcome to Autology, the weekly podcast that brings you the latest on automotive technology. This week's episode is called Low Voltage Batteries for an Electrified Future, and you're here with me, Graham Evans, S&P Global Mobility Supply Chain Technology Director, alongside two members from Clarios, Eric Micheluzzi, Director of Lithium-Ion Technology, and Wei Song, Director of AGM Technology. Several weeks ago, we released a podcast entitled Low Voltage Battery, a Traditional Technology with a Key Future Role to Play. And we are digging deeper into the low voltage battery space with a multi-part series with Clarios. Clarios creates the most advanced battery technologies for virtually every type of vehicle. Their technologies include flooded through advanced AGM lead acid batteries and also 12-volt lithium-ion batteries. They're a global leader in energy storage solutions, powering 1 in 3 of the world's vehicles. So hello to you both, and thank you very much for joining this week's episode of Autology.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. Hi, thanks, and we're really looking forward to having this conversation.
Fantastic. So we'll make a start of the questions. I mean, in the first episode, we outlined what a low voltage battery is, some of the main functions, and the industry dynamics around low voltage batteries. Today, we'd like to go a little bit deeper, specifically in relation to electrified vehicles. But first, however, let's start by clarifying the use of the term electrified and indeed perhaps XEV, which is what many people see in media when referring to electric vehicles collectively. So let's start by defining this for the listeners who are perhaps unaware. Wei, would you like to say, from the Clarios side, how you define this?
Sure. So the X in XEV represents all electrified powertrain, which including the mild hybrid, full hybrid, plug-in hybrid, fuel cell electric vehicle, and battery electrical vehicle.
Fantastic, yes, and I would say, broadly speaking, this is the industry convention, and certainly here at S&P Global Mobility, we have this propulsion system design field in our data sets that our client base are using. This is effectively we would define anything with some form of electrically driven propulsion or assist as electrified. So this could include mild hybrid, full hybrid, and battery electric vehicles. So as we say, some kind of assist or regeneration capability on the propulsion side, and we would separately define PHEV and BEV as externally charged. So plug-in hybrid electric vehicle and battery electric vehicle as externally charged. In terms of the activity at the moment in the industry, certainly lots of OEMs are electrifying their lineups, but perhaps the biggest key measure of change is when these XEVs will outnumber the internal combustion engine, the purely internal combustion engine vehicles. So according to our forecasts, the S&P Global Mobility data, the date that electrified vehicles will surpass ICE vehicles, this is 2026. Whilst for pure battery electric vehicles alone, we expect that these will supplant electric vehicles by 2033. So I'm keen to get Clarios' perspective, how they feel about this date, and perhaps from your side, what you think are the variables that can influence this. So can I bring in Eric here? Would you like to comment?
Sure. As of a few years ago, we wouldn't have expected this to come so quickly. But with all the recent announcements and investments from the industry, as well as our engagement with the automakers and understanding where they're going with their technology, it definitely seems more possible than it has in the past. As far as the variable, we all know there's a lot of different variables that could impact the overall timeline of this increase in electrification. One of them is going to be infrastructure. Are the charging stations available for your plug-in hybrids or your battery electric vehicles, as well as advances in technology to meet the changing needs of an electrified vehicle, as well as the reduction in cost. So this new technology obviously comes at a cost and a premium to the end purchaser, and advances in technology that helps reduce those costs is going to expedite the transition to electrification. And then another one is global manufacturing capability and capacity for both batteries, high and low voltage batteries, as well as the adjacent components that are needed for an electrified vehicle, such as DC to DC converters, motor generators, etc. So some of the global supply chain constraints that the automakers have been facing recently are the same constraints that equipment manufacturers who manufacture the equipment to assemble batteries, as well as these adjacent components, are currently facing. So as these factors and variables kind of sort themselves out in the market, it'll definitely give us a better insight at the overall timing.
That's great. All excellent points, and I would say certainly things that we are thinking about as we build a forecast. You know, what can be the limit, the upper limit or the lower limit on some of these these forecasts. So maybe going a bit more specifically into the battery side, then we discussed in our first episode the fact that XEV vehicles have a high voltage battery and they have a low voltage battery, and we discussed a bit about why they need both. So the reason for this comes down to powering the many accessories that are fitted to these advanced vehicles. So outside of being a power source for the increased technologies within these vehicles, could you tell us a bit about what other role the low voltage battery plays?
Sure. So you are definitely right. The low voltage battery is responsible for powering all the features you just mentioned. And besides this, it also covers a lot of other loads. For example, in battery electrical vehicle, although there is no engine to crank, the low voltage battery is still responsible to start the vehicle, including wake up the high voltage system. And another example is the over-the-air updates. As you know, many of the modern vehicles receive the software updates the same way as our cell phone does. So the low voltage battery is responsible to power the loads required for the over-the-air updates when the vehicle is not in the drive mode. So we talked about those examples. It's mainly the low stakes. And now let's talk about the example for high stakes. If the high voltage system fails in the vehicle, and the vehicle will require the low voltage battery to become the safety backup power. So which means the low voltage battery needs to pull over the vehicle to a safe location. That including some loads from power steering, braking, and lighting. So that's very critical to have this type of the reliable backup power from the low voltage.
Yeah, and super important. I mean, obviously, hopefully drivers would never have to experience a situation like that. But of course, it's reassuring to know that there is always this redundant power support source on the vehicle to make sure that it can be led to safety. So maybe moving on, let's talk a little bit about, you know, Clarios has deep relationships with the top OEMs globally. You know, you mentioned a bit earlier about the number of vehicles that are powered by a Clarios battery for 12 volts. What insights can you share with the listeners about how and why an OEM chooses a particular battery chemistry or technology?
Yeah, so right now, as of today, we see the predominant choice being for XEV markets being AGM. That being said, we do see a growing demand for lithium-ion batteries over the next 5 years. So Clarios, we have a full product portfolio from SLI, EFB, AGM to lithium-ion, really to address these overall needs. But because of our relationships, we do have an informed product roadmap, and we do have a lot of insights in understanding what requirements are evolving from their side to understand what's the right product and what their decision points are in determining a technology or chemistry. So first and foremost is performance. Can the specific chemistry or technology meet the power and energy requirements across the expected operating temperature range? And then once we kind of get apples to apples from a performance perspective, the decisions right now are primarily being driven by size and weight of the battery. And then additionally, lithium ion has a longer life than lead acid batteries typically, which is also influencing some decision makers in the auto space for the overall, total cost of ownership of the vehicle perspective. When we look at the premium vehicle segments, we do see that OEMs will opt to spend more money on a chemistry or technology because their brands and their vehicle reputation demand the most capable technology.
Okay, it makes good sense, and so we can clearly see that the 12-volt battery has an important role to play for many years to come. And indeed, we have a forecast around how we see the 12-volt space evolving. We think that demand for them will continue to increase until at least 2025. So, what are the challenges you're trying to solve for within the 12-volt lead acid battery? How does it need to continue to evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, so probably many people have this experience. So when you drive a vehicle, the only time when you realize there is an issue with the battery is when the battery cannot start the vehicle. There is no warning ahead of time. And so that's kind of one of the key challenge at Claris we are trying to address to improve the product performance. For example, if we improve the battery prediction on the state of health, and then it can lively communicate to the drivers, so the driver can proactively replace the battery to avoid unexpected failure. And another example is more focused on the xEV and autonomous vehicles. So in the previous the question we mentioned, when the high voltage system fails and the vehicle will require the 12-volt battery to become the safety backup power. So it's very critical for the low voltage battery to communicate whether it's ready to take over this safety function. So that's the reason why this is another key project we are working on at Claris to develop our next generation product in order to predict the state of health and state of function for the battery, so we can support a more predictable and safer battery option to our customers.
Great. Okay, makes good sense. And yeah, more intelligent batteries to support more intelligent vehicles moving forward. Definitely. Maybe Eric, could you tell us about the challenges that you're trying to solve for the 12-volt lithium-ion battery?
Sure. So some of the challenges are the same as the lead acid. So that predictability obviously is key, regardless of what the energy source is. Beyond that, though, as we're looking at the increasing needs of autonomous drive vehicles, ensuring the availability, safety requirements, and regulations, those are some of the newer challenges we're facing as the market's evolving. When you go to lithium, the expectation from the customer base also is that it's going to be a much smaller, lighter package. So, they're trying to squeeze it into wherever they can. So a really big constraint or challenge we face today from a lithium side is how do we, get the highest energy and power density to meet the customer requirements in the smallest package to give them the most benefit. And one of our biggest challenges right now is the OEM's strategies around using these 12-volt batteries are constantly evolving, and they're not standard across OEs. So we see very different use cases and applications, and we're trying to develop a core set of products that supports the whole product portfolio as well as all of our customers. And they don't have a standard product. So designing a core product that's close enough to meet most of our customers is a really big challenge. Also to support, how they're using it in the functional safety case and in their autonomous drive vehicles. It's really early in the development. So as we move forward, if we can drive standardization with some of the functionality, that's going to be a big key in order to really adopt this technology.
Yeah, it makes good sense. Obviously, there's never one size fits all, but at the same time, as a big tier one supplier, right? You're looking to achieve economies of scale where possible, certainly. Maybe, yeah, to take that one step further. I mean, how would you say you guys are innovating in the 12-volt space in order to respond to the industry challenges? We can see the pace at which the industry is evolving towards increasingly connected, autonomous, shared vehicles, etc. How will your next generation technology aim to solve these questions? Or maybe the better way to frame the question could be, could you comment on the technical reasons why 12-volt lithium-ion is the technology of choice for certain applications?
Yeah, so right now the 12-volt lithium-ion is deemed the technology of choice for certain applications, largely because of its ability to communicate the state of function and state of health, as well as the size versus performance ratio that you can get with a lithium-ion battery. So what we're doing from a Claros perspective is we're continuing to engage the OE base. We're trying to get ahead of the development curve, so we're developing the right technology there to support the changing needs. Additionally, though, we are leveraging our core technology and our experience from the lithium-ion side and electronics and BMS and our long history with AGM and working on launching our next generation of our smart AGM product that Wei had mentioned. This gives you the same benefits of being able to communicate the ability of the battery from a SOF, state of function and state of health perspective, and ultimately to meet these same needs, which are to ensure the availability of the battery to power electrical loads.
Great, thank you so much. I mean, it's unfortunate that's all we've got time for on the podcast today. We'd like to say a big thank you to Eric and Wei from Clarius for bringing their expertise and their insights to the podcast for this fascinating deep dive. We really appreciate you both joining us for this episode of Autology.
Thank you so much. And it's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. This was great.
And thank you to all you listeners for tuning in as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode at our autology@spglobal.com email. And you can find out much more at autotechinsight.ihsmarket.com. Don't forget to hit all the subscribe, follow, and like buttons to stay on track with the latest Autology podcasts. And we look forward to you joining us again in the next episode. Bye for now.